Mr. Marty Granoff, welcome to the program. You,
Thank you, Martin. Pleasure.
you are. We're officially starting Note Investing Made Easier webinar for today, and we have a very special guest, Marty Granoff. Someone that I met over the email, over the phone, etc. in 2013, 5 years ago, and someone that I've learned a great deal with. Has acted in the form of a mentor to me, as I was also a customer for you, Mr. Granoff, and actually, moreover, you were my first foray into the note investing world, as most brokers lead to Marty Granoff in terms of
Mhm.
the cash flow industry. So welcome to the program, and I want to say a special hi to Howard Ten, who's on with us today. Very special treat. Marty, if you're ever in the LA area, you'll have to connect with Howard Ten, as he could be a good counterpart for you in what you do. And Fred, hey, welcome, and Rick, welcome. So, Mr. Granoff, can you please, just give us a little bit about your background, if you don't mind?
Be happy to, Martin. First, let me mention, if you consider me as you being, or me mentoring you, you're one of the best students I've ever had. You amazed me from the very beginning, knowing very little about the cash flow business other than having a note to sell, and in no time being all tuned up and raring to go and getting involved in stuff that I wasn't even familiar with. You've done a beautiful job, Martin. And then putting this group together is very, very nice. The educational aspect is wonderful. I've been in the investment field in general for many, many years, even starting in college, which wasn't too long ago, I guess. And it was in 1992 when I was at a real estate meeting, and these RIAs, so groups all over the country, affiliated with a national organization. And this one was in Philadelphia when I lived in Philly. And they brought her in talking about real estate notes. And I got a message up, okay. So they're talking about real estate notes. And I was just blown away by it. I mean, that was a major turnaround in my future of what I wanted to do and how I wanted to handle working with clients and types of investments. And I started in the seller financed real estate note business, brokering them to clients. So I had many clients interested in this kind of product. And then that expanded into structured settlements when we started getting approached by brokers with that kind of cash flow. And then lotteries came along. At that time, there was no lump sum option available. Every winner was paid out over 20, 25, 30 years based on the state, based on the game. And we expanded into that. And then all these other ones that just came along. The business became more and more fascinating as each year went by.
Well, let me just stop you there for a moment, because what's interesting is in this group, Note Investing Made Easier, in several of the other popular Facebook groups, the focus tends to be on non-performing notes backed by real estate. And so what you do is you cast a much wider net. Can you just tell us a little bit about, the different types of cash flow that you buy?
I'd be happy to. Let me mention that I did attempt to get involved in some defaulted notes about 5 years ago. Bought a small portfolio of 5 of them with all kinds of wonderful plans of what I was going to do with these people, helping them, helping myself. And it just didn't happen. I just worked too hard, I felt, and it wasn't my cup of tea. So we didn't lose any money on that, but decided we'd leave the default notes up to you, Martin, and people who love that stuff. We were going to stick with the performing.
Do you still have those 5 notes?
No, no. One way or another, we we don't have them anymore, and fortunately did not lose any money on that. As I said, we made a little bit, but it was the experience, and we got them so cheap that I figured the risk wasn't too great, but it was too much time. Didn't want to do it anymore. But we've gotten involved in just so many different ones. Beside the lottery, contest winnings, a lot of people don't realize that the casinos, the Powerball, the slots, the progressive slot machines. When people win $1 million+ prizes on the progressive slots, many of them are paid out over time. We've bought numerous cash flows in that category. Royalty payments, business notes, where so many businesses were sold with seller financing. Beside, they're set up just like real estate with seller financing. I went over our portfolio yesterday, sort of preparing for today here. Where we've got some land notes, we've got some a lot of attorneys when they structure settlements, their fees are structured as well. They've got to wait because they're getting a percentage of the future payments as they come in, and they don't want to wait for their money. So I have quite a few of those. We have a school here, a private school, where we advance money on future tuition payments that were coming in.
So Marty, could a motto be, if you don't want to wait for your money, call me?
That would work. It's just amazing how many cash flow opportunities exist. And I think I could be in this business another 100 years and still come across many that I never saw before. And conceptually, they're all the same. It's just the payor, the strength of the payor, Martin, is the key.
And so strength of the payor, bar profile. Mm-hmm. And the thing is that a lot of people come into the note industry and they think one-sided. So their focus is on, it's got to be backed by real estate or else the borrower is never going to pay. But a lot of your transactions have nothing to do with real estate.
That's right. Most don't.
So what is your thought process when someone brings you an opportunity? And I know that you're always inundated with opportunities. Like, what's your first thing that you do?
I'm looking to see the commitment and the history of the borrower or the buyer. Let's say someone buying a business. I'm looking for the amount of the down payment, the history of making the note payments, the experience of the buyer in a related business or some kind of past experience that will give me comfort that he'll be able to properly operate and efficiently operate the new business. It's really all based on the payor. And what's interesting, Martin, I don't run credit on people.
I know you've mentioned that.
Score is, and I don't know if I really care, but I guess if I hear that it's 500, I get a little worried. But, I don't run credit on people. It's more what they've done with the specific transaction that I'm looking at. That's what I'm interested in. And more times than not, thank God, it's worked out well.
And that's interesting. So I want to make the distinction. What Marty's saying is that he gets an opportunity from the note seller, but his main concern is with the person who's buying the business, or that's going to be making the payments. That's what he wants to know, that they're. And then Howard 10 mentions he bets on the jockey, not the horse. So as a comment, and mm-hmm. So your concern is, who is writing me a check every month, and how can I vet that person?
Yes.
And so how do you vet the person if you're not looking at their credit report?
The history of the transaction that I'm looking at. I mentioned I want a decent down payment, and I want proof that down payment was really made. I want to see the payment history on the note, 6 months worth or 6 years worth. I want to see it having been paid on time and nothing skipped and no excuses. and the history of the person. What did they do before they bought the business? Did they have another business, or did they just inherit some money and they decide, let's go and buy a business? That would really scare me off. Um, that's basically it with the business notes.
And then when you start and I know this firsthand, having transacted with you a few times on the business note, and we've also transacted on performing notes as well. But the level of due diligence is like I've never seen. I mean, you drill down as deep as possible. Starts with first just a few innocent questions, and then it just leads you down a hole where it's almost at the point when you want to cry. That's when I know that Marty's probably gotten everything he needs to get.
Never realized I did that, but okay, seems to work.
Yeah, making grown men cry. Absolutely.
Wonderful.
So, moving on from business notes, tell us about the most unique note you've ever purchased.
You're dying to hear about this one, Marty.
Yes.
We were approached about a little less than a year ago by somebody who started telling us this story. The story was that his father is an archaeologist, and he was on a dig in Turkey. And while there, he got kidnapped by a terrorist group. And they kept him and moved him around for quite a number of months. And he was able to escape and got back to this country. He went to an attorney, and they decided to sue Syria because Syria was a known supporter of this terrorist group that had kidnapped him, and a funder and arming this group. So they sued Syria, and without much effort probably, got a judgment against Syria. So as he's telling me this on the phone, I'm smiling like you're smiling, Gordon, saying, okay, we'll take this judgment. You can use it as wallpaper. But then this person continued saying that our government put together a fund, and it's a terrorist victims relief fund. And the funding for this fund is the fines that they collect from countries that are caught doing business with banned countries. Like we're hearing a lot about the ZTE thing where they did business with North Korea and they did business with Iran. Well, there's a lot of people and companies that have done that, maybe not to the degree that ZTE did, and they agree to pay fines, and some numbers are pretty big numbers, and that fine money goes into this fund. The fund is managed by the fellow who ran the 9/11 fund out of New York, an attorney who seems to specialize in coordinating these disbursements of monies like this. And this fund has a 10-year life, and there's a certain formula that's used based on the number of judgments that qualify for this fund and the number of judgment holders that come into the fund and the amounts of the judgments. And this person had already received a payment of about 13% of their the amount the judgment was for. That was their first payment. And they had a second payment coming up this coming January, which is about 3 or 4 months from now. Didn't know exactly how much they were going to get, but seemed pretty sure that they were going to get a decent amount. And he was looking for an advance on at least some of what's expected this January. And I agreed to it. Did a lot of homework on this, a lot of information on the web concerning this, spoke to his attorney. And then his sister came along. She had a judgment, a similar judgment. The whole family got judgment. And I gave her an advance. So we're expecting a nice payday for us in January, maybe February of next year. That's definitely the most unusual transaction we've ever done.
Wow. And how do you analyze it from the perspective of the discount that you're going to offer? Like, I understand business notes might be a little bit more streamlined, but something one-off like that.
I'd like to say that there's a definite matrix that I follow, but there isn't. It was just based on what I think I wanted to make on such a transaction based on the size of the advance. The interest rate really didn't matter. He knew he wanted X amount of dollars, and I saw I was willing to pay what I asked. So there was no real formula involved. Maybe if I had a good night's sleep or a bad night's sleep, may have controlled that. So it's not as finite as one would think. It's pretty open-ended.
So it's interesting how you get a lot of your deals. They come through by the way of brokers.
All of them do, Martin.
All of them come through brokers.
Everything.
And what I found fascinating when I was reaching out to 20, 30 brokers when I was first selling a partial of my business note, when we first met, 2013, most of them have the same 10 canned questions that they ask to go and do an initial vetting of the opportunity. And so after the first few, I realized, how to structure my presentation so that it would, garner more attention. And so I guess those are the magical questions that they always ask. And then if it passed the test, then it gets filtered down to yourself.
Yes.
Is that?
Yeah, that was good, Martin, that you did that. Smart.
Well, I noticed that they are all the same, so it
You
was
present your cash flow. Absolutely, very good. Yeah.
And what's interesting is the ambiguity that you don't always know who's a broker and who's a direct buyer, because they all come through. They all present well.
Yes.
So, which is good. I mean, that's what they need to do to be effective. So, but
that's always been, I was going to say an issue, but it really isn't an issue, but it's a norm in our industry that there's very few actual end buyers like ourselves. Almost everybody are brokers, which is not bad, but it could be a little deceiving to a seller.
Yeah, because that was one of the things where I was vetting the vetter. And I was asking, hey, are you a direct buyer? Because I wanted to go right to the source. And I think that at the end of the day, Ken, your Ken's son-in-law, right?
Nephew.
Okay. He had got you connected with me first. But you had heard my name through other brokers that were connecting with you as well. So
Very common, Mark, that 3 or 4 brokers will bring us the same transaction. Yes.
Is it because the consumer is just out there on the internet popping up, want to sell my note on Google, and then they get, 20 people and then, blast out emails?
Could be. Or they'll list it on, Craigslist or whatever, and the brokers are canvassing those lists looking for opportunities.
So since you deal with so many cash flow assets outside mortgage notes, what do you see like in terms of inventory now versus 5 years ago, say?
I think more of the business notes, real estate notes are starting to appear in more quantity again. There was a period there where it was tough to come up with some quality notes, but lately I have been seeing some more notes coming along. I don't know. I think everything is still there like it was. Most of our business is not in any one thing, Martin. It's all spread out.
So the diversification can help, because you hear a lot of people kind of crying in the industry now with the mortgage notes, non-performing mortgage notes, that there's a lack of inventory at low levels, whereas, before you used to be in abundance. So, hey, Anya, how are you? Thanks for joining. And Allie, I know you're on here too, and Dave as well, and Fred, hello. Joanne's been chiming in on comments section, by the way.
Right, Joanne?
So thank you, Joanne, for that. So Joanne's your niece in upstate
Yes.
New York, right?
That's Kenny's sister.
Got it. Kenny's sister. And yeah, beautiful family, Joanne and Ken. I had fun meeting them at Paper Source a year and a half ago.
Yep.
So the diversification is what helps you. It's if you were locked into just one niche industry, you would have to ride the wave with inventory.
Yeah.
But since you're funding Afghan or your Syrian refugee,
It's the right country now, Marty.
Syrian refugees.
Yeah. Let me mention about another one. That was so unusual when they came along. It's a TV syndication. I think probably most people have heard of it, called Cheaters.
Yeah.
Been around for years. I don't think any news shows have been put together for a long time, but the reruns are go on and on and on for some reason. And we were approached by, again, a broker who introduced us to the owner of the show. He had sold some episodes to a major TV network, and they agreed to pay for it in quarterly installments over 1 year. And he didn't want to wait a year to get all his money. So we advanced them on that, and the network paid us each quarter instead of paying him. Worked out beautifully.
Nice. So the process is still the same, it seems like, across the board.
Everyone. Yeah.
Everyone. You focus on the buyer, right? Or in this case, owner, the payor. And was it, out of curiosity, because I've watched that show. It's kind of a silly show, back many years ago.
Jerry Springer.
It's like Jerry Springer.
I watched it too and said, "Oh my God!"
Did you watch it before you bought the note?
Did I watch the specific episodes?
Yeah. Did you watch any of them?
No. No. We happened to catch it on a different network. We saw a show, just to refresh my memory, that it was what I remembered it being. But it really didn't matter. The network had the commitment, and that's what I was counting on, and there was no out clause. There are no variables. They didn't have to sell it to certain advertisers. That wasn't my problem. And they made their payments, in fact, early. We did it twice. We did this twice. Very nice. Very nice.
So Cheaters.
I want to throw in here that some of the investment money came from our retirement plan to do this.
Nice. How ironic, right? You and your wife's IRA is funding a show about cheaters.
Yeah.
But so let me ask you, because knowing you how I know you, you have three areas of focus: the note seller, the payor, and the business assets. So, but it depends on what type of note you're buying. The business asset could be a mortgage, or it could be a lawsuit agreement, or what have you, the instrument, if you will. So what would you prioritize in terms of the most important one to the least important one out of those three categories?
The payor. What were the other two?
The payor, the note seller, and the instrument, or the asset.
The note seller really is the least significant one. The note seller, because I'm really not needing to count on them, other than honesty, I guess.
Yeah.
And also, when I ask questions and seek documents, I want them to be responsive. And sometimes I'll find the note sellers answering my questions very vaguely or avoiding them. And if I sense that, that's history. That's it. I don't care how great the rest of it looks. I just become very concerned about that.
So you're looking at the chemistry or the flow of the communication, and you want to seem like it's seamless and it's flowing in a positive manner, and you're getting everything you need.
Yes, and completeness of their answers.
And how do you find, because if you see someone that is a motivated note seller, you got to think that they have something in mind where they're going to use the funds. And so, are you perplexed at all the people that are not responsive, or they're not, moving at your pace to get you what you need?
Uh, yes, it amazes me. And we come across this relatively often. Unresponsive or weak answered note sellers. And here they want to sell the note, but they're just not coming through.
And
Yes, that is frustrating.
you see that as a red flag,
Mhm.
for when they're going to make payments to you, right? They might
Well,
have the
the
same.
seller now. I'm dealing with the seller. So the seller's
Yeah,
not the one
that's
making the
true.
payment. It's just his honesty with me, his completeness with me. I mean, he could tell me before I ask for copies of the checks. I'll say, what's the payment history? Oh, payment history is great. Well, this happens often, by the way. And then when I ask for proof, they'll send bank statements or deposit slips, and it's not great at all. So it's just many times we'll ask for documentation, which they say they'll have. Then when I ask specifically for it, all of a sudden they don't have it. Oh, they paid me cash sometimes. They didn't pay me by check or money order. They gave me cash. So I don't have record of it. I start hearing that, their history.
And are they history because at the initial communication is that, hey, the pay history is great, not knowing if you're going to delve in further?
I guess they're not going to ask me to do that. They figure I won't. I don't know.
Wow. And then knowing how many years you've been in business, it would be amazing that how you could be in business if you didn't verify
Mm-hmm.
the documents.
We
So
try.
what are we saying? Any type of settlement, or what is the best way to sum it up, Marty, in terms of what you do? Anything that cash flows, you would have an interest.
Yes.
Okay.
Any series of future payments with a strong payor. That's what I'm interested in. Doesn't matter what it is.
And tell me about the payor. You're looking for their experience, their.
The payment history and the financial strength as best as I can determine of the payor.
And to say that you have all the brokers, because you have a lot of brokers that point to you and send you deals. How have you fostered the broker relationship over the period of time?
Um, I think going to several national conventions a year, advertising, very little advertising, like in Paper Source. Um, just having been around for so long, I guess, it helps. One advantage, you're getting old.
Yeah, but a lot of the brokers are younger folks just getting in.
Maybe they hear from others. I don't know.
So there may be a broker school that has your name on it.
Uh, well, let's see. Not that I'm aware of, but maybe. I don't. I don't know. Maybe they'll do some searches and find me. I don't. I really don't know. I'm not complaining.
So what's the end game for you? Are you going to seek out a partner at some point to help you, to move forward? Are you going to, like, where do you see it going for yourself with your portfolio? Are you looking to grow it into, significantly more of a fund, or with management team, or just go how you're going?
None of the above. We've got a portfolio now that we're living on comfortably. We have children. We have grandchildren. A grandchild. So this is great. Pass me down stuff for them. I do need some help at just organizing things a little bit better, maybe for others to understand what I do better. But I have no desire to expand the business. transaction opportunities come along. If I like it and I have the money to go for it, I go for it. If I don't, I don't. It's a totally different attitude. I don't even look at this as a business anymore. It's just I'm making investments instead of Wall Street. These are my investments. The cash comes in, and more comes in than I need. So I have dollars to be able to buy new things. But there's no objective here of maximizing the portfolio. It's a day-by-day thing.
So with that said, you have you feel like you have good control over everything, over your cash flow, over what you're doing with investments. If it went beyond that, then it might be you might make some bad moves, or
You just have no desire to do that. No desire to bring more people on board or expand the business. My whole career, it's been a one person operation basically, and it's worked. And I keep thinking I can slow down now, but it's just not happening.
Well, Marty, we got a question from Matt Kelly. He's a good friend of the group, and he oversees a large legal team out in LA. So, Matt, thank you for your question. So, Marty, he says, I was not able to locate much as to you being involved in any litigation or collection-related court actions. In the event of default, please explain your recourse as a creditor, i.e., your use of UCC filings.
I guess we're talking about business notes. A default in a business note situation, it's very difficult. Very difficult. We've lost money. Usually when the business fails, the UCCs are really meaningless. The value of the equipment, whatever the UCCs covered, doesn't add up to that much usually. So it's more cosmetic than real to file the UCC. That's how I feel. So it's a risk, and that's why we get higher returns on those kind of cash flows to make up for that added risk.
Yeah, and with that said, how much emphasis do you put on a business note side, into the business assets in terms of goodwill? So, long-term contracts in place, and where you're able to vet future cash flows somewhat from it.
I don't think, it's very difficult, at least for me, to evaluate or to value a business. I guess if the buyer was willing to pay X amount of dollars for the business, I'm going under the assumption that that's what the business is worth and analyzing it from there. So if they put 10% based on inventory and 90% on goodwill, doesn't sound really great to me, but if that's the way they structured it, that's the way they structured it. So I don't do an appraisal of a business. If that's, might be the best answer here. If I did, who knows what the number would come up with. It's more so, how much down payment did this person put down? What's been their payment history? What's been their previous experience before they bought the business? Those are, I think, the three key things that I zero in on.
And, do you take it, from the aspect of personal guarantors, seeing who is backing?
We like seeing that, but we've had experience even with the personal guarantor, we had problems. So again, it's more cosmetic than really meaningless and meaningful. More cosmetic than meaningful.
Yes. And so, that's to take a good, business assets don't, FF&E, they don't add up to much if you have to take them back. I would think that goodwill is more significant if there is long-term clients in place or long-term contracts where you can kind of do a projection of cash flow based on that for the business, just to make sure money's coming in the door. Because you have, in some cases, a new buyer for the business, so you want to make sure they're competent, but there's also cash flow coming in as they get ramped up.
I probably should do all of that stuff, Martin, but I don't.
No, Marty, you do. You just, you're piecemeal. You just go, what you do that I've never seen before is you have a multiplying effect with your inquiries. So you ask 10 questions and then it leads to 30 questions, and then you take it down, and you really delve into someone's livelihood, someone's experience, and all that.
Whatever I do seems to work more often than it doesn't work. So thank you, Mark.
Yeah, you're most welcome. And I know that you've been you usually speak at Paper Source, and and then the IMN show too. We saw each other in January. What did you think of the IMN show, just for folks that might be wanting to check it out?
I thought it was an excellent production. They ran it beautifully, very well coordinated. I never realized all the supporting businesses there were for the defaulted note business, of helping analyze the notes and helping track down this and that, and all those side related businesses really fascinated me. I never thought about it, but I thought it was done very, very well. It wasn't really geared to what I do as much as the defaulted note industry, but it was still very nice. It was always great seeing you there, Martin.
Well, thank you, Marty. I enjoy spending time with you as well, and sending you some pictures of the family as they're growing a little older.
Yeah, beautiful family, beautiful.
Yeah, thank you very much. I thought IMN was interesting. They gave a good macro economic, a lot of macroeconomic content, so you can kind of see, from an international perspective, and where the world economy is going. Another good event, Marty, that I think you'd enjoy is Mid-Atlantic Real Estate Summit with Dave Van Horn at PPR. He puts that out, and that's a no pitch, kind of like Paper Source. It's no pitch, and they also give they put on a lot of speakers. They give high level content in a no
with that, Martin.
Selling environment.
I'm familiar with Dave, but I didn't know of his group. Okay.
Yeah. I'll send you the next one. It'll be probably next June or something, but I'll send that over to you.
Sure.
And great. So let me ask you in terms of settlement. So is it pretty straightforward when you're buying a settlement, what you have to do for due diligence?
A settlement meaning a lawsuit settlement, a structured
settlement, or a lottery winning, or an annuity that you're buying, insurance annuity, something like that?
Yeah, there's very little due diligence required. I mean, you know who the payor is. State lottery, I would feel pretty comfortable with, or Prudential, Metropolitan, John Hancock, who might be paying the lawsuit settlement. So it's just the mechanics of putting it together. And we need to go to court and get court orders to do those. And there's a system in place to do that.
So the court order assigns overpayments to you?
Yeah, correct.
Okay. So the state needs to see that to send payments to you?
Yeah.
Got it. And
the theory behind that is, hold on a moment. Full disclosure. They want to make sure that the annuitant or the seller of the cash flow everything has been disclosed to them of what's going on. That's the purpose of the court order and the judge review. That's always happened, but that's the purpose of it.
And does DoddFrank come into play with any of what you do?
Very heavily. I will not touch a note, a seller finance note that originated after January 1st to 14th. I just walk away from it. I don't care how they underwrote it. They'll brag about everything that they did and with the mortgage person involved. But if there's a foreclosure, a sharp attorney can come along and just kill the whole thing and get wiped out. So I just haven't touched them.
So
there's enough other product out there.
Just to restate that, any seller finance note originated after January 1st, 2014, you will not touch.
Yes.
Okay. Did a DoddFrank.
On owner occupied single-family homes or mobile homes. In business notes, no problem.
Mm-hmm.
Land, no problem. Single-family owner-occupied.
Got it. And actually there's a heavy inventory out there of contract for deeds, and some have been originated after that January 1st period, and then some have not. So that may be something, a good piece of information for people
Mm-hmm.
that are in that market.
There are some institutional buyers who are not concerned about that. They're equipped with their legal teams and just to underwrite it better and handle it better, and I just don't want to get involved. So they're still sellable. There are investors for them, but not myself.
So there's some folks out in the group that maybe don't have a lot of capital to come into this game with, but they still want to be active in the industry. So a lot of those folks turn to brokering as a way to start, which is very respectable if done correctly. So what would you tell those individuals, some pieces of advice that, what does it take to be a successful broker in today's market?
I think almost everybody in this business started off brokering, as I did, and I think as you did. The kind of broker
I started off selling a note to you.
Well, yeah, that's right.
Then I went and bought a bunch of bad notes. That's how I started.
You're right. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
When I find a broker bringing me a transaction that they don't understand themselves, that is obviously incomplete, that obviously has errors, just on the superficial information, that's a major turnoff to me, maybe not wanting to do business with this broker. I'd like the broker to understand what they're dealing with as much as they can, ask some basic questions, which they'll learn better questions the longer they're in the business, but just to do a little due diligence on their own before bringing it to any investor like us, instead of just throwing anything up against the wall and hope something's going to stick. That's what I look for in brokers.
Okay.
Otherwise, Martin, this is a fabulous business. It continues to excite me every day. I mean, it's unbelievable, having been in this so long, to still have the spirit that I do with what this business is all about. And I just wish I got in it even sooner. I mean, it's been almost 30 years. I could have, done 40, whatever. The opportunities are wonderful. Just for a business that's been around so long, there's so few people who understand it, who even know about it, and it puts us at such an advantage. I think just a fabulous opportunity. And there's cash flows all around us, all around us. I mean, sometimes you watch a TV show, and they'll have $1 million prize. How often do you think they're paying out $1 million cash? You think maybe they're buying an annuity? In many cases, they are buying an annuity. And just do a little homework. A lot of times you can track these people down and pick up business that way just from watching television. It's happened. Just an example of what's all around us.
Yeah, interesting. And you and I talked about, had a good conversation before we got on, that a lot of it has to do with just diligence and picking up the phone on a daily basis, making, a certain amount of outreach to, to folks like what you're saying, whatever the business model is. If you're calling on businesses that sold to see if they have a seller note that they can sell, or you're contacting a game show winner, whoever it is you need to reach out to, you need to do it through the phone on a regular basis.
I remember, Martin, in the beginning, when we first started getting involved with the lotteries, the toughest part is finding lottery winners, obviously. They don't want to be found. So I, at that time, bought lists of wealth managers and accountants all over the country. And I was on the phone. I must have made 100 or more calls a day, one after the other, and was able to pick up business that way. Was even able to I found an outfit in Baltimore that had, there's a thought, okay,
Mhm.
this outfit turned out to be my initial main source of money to buy lotteries. I mean, all from cold calling on the phone, never even having met them. It was really unbelievable the business that came from that, just making these phone calls. And, I look back at it, I think, geez, where did I get the energy? Where did I get the desire? It was there. And, after you do it enough, it's not so difficult.
Yeah.
Just discipline, discipline.
And you meet some fascinating people along the way.
Yep. How
So,
many your cards you got down there? You got some other interesting cards on your desk there? Yeah. Okay.
and then I do different ones for the different shows.
There you go. All right. I like it.
So I look for a time to chime in with my little cue cards because
Okay, good.
it makes me look like I'm doing something too.
Do that. You're asking some excellent questions, man.
No, thank you. I think it's important. I mean, it needs to be a win-win for everyone. So if you don't have a lot of money, but you have time to go pick up the phone, then start brokering. If you have money and you're not able to find mortgage notes, maybe business notes is an avenue for inventory. Just go ahead and just look for where people are not and be the best at that position.
I think we should mention, as we talked about pre-webinar here, um, there are, without knowing this for sure, my guess is that most small business is sold with seller financing. And what's a logical place to find a source of who would know about seller finance notes? Well, it's quite obvious. Business brokers.
Yeah.
There's business brokers all over the country. What a wonderful way to prospect for business loans by contacting business brokers. Just seems so obvious to me.
Yeah. And I sold my company through a business broker. And they would sell me out for a point. They would give you the name for a point. So it's just a way of growing growing their top line.
Getting a second income from a sale that already happened, getting a second commission.
Yes, but like also we talked about, it's all academic. If the person's not picking up the phone on a regular basis and making that outreach.
Yep.
So Marty, this is the point of the program where I ask you what daily rituals you have that help you succeed and grow in business.
I don't know if there's anything really unique here about this.
I know you walk your dog.
I do. I'm up early. The first thing is walking the dog, and then walking myself, and then breakfast, and reading the newspaper. And I'm in the office usually at 9 o'clock, working out of my home, which I've always done, and checking emails and projects for the day, reading paperwork. Fortunately, I don't have to look for cash flow sellers. I'm not going to compete with the brokers. The brokers bring me what I need to see and do, and that's my day. And managing the cash flows, some late payments, some whatever. I wish I had some exciting explanation here. Quite basic, quite fundamental.
Well, it's exciting when you get direct deposits, when you get the ACH payment.
Yeah. And looking forward to the mail when the mail comes. I just learned two thoughts I just had. Do you ever know Lonnie Scruggs? He may have been before your time.
Yeah, the mobile.
Yeah. He used to say he never wanted to go to his mailbox and find a check in the mailbox. Every day when he went to pick his mail, he wanted to make sure there was going to be at least one check in the mailbox. And I forgot my other thought. So let's move on. I forgot
No, that's funny. I actually, as I was going through My RIA, Tammy Phelps RIA, is called Capital City RIA. That was one of the, I was turned on to Lonnie Scruggs, then the Mobile Home King, and I bought his kit, and I thought for about a week that I was going to be the Mobile Home King until I went to a few mobile home communities, and nothing wrong with mobile home communities. There's a lot of beautiful ones, but I just kind of saw what was involved, and I'm like, it didn't, I was like, this isn't going to be for me. And then when I heard about notes, it was, I'm like, yeah, I'm about, being inside the office and working a cash flow business.
Mm-hmm.
But Lonnie is, he's down in Florida, right? He was?
Lonnie passed away.
A
couple of years ago. I forget where he was based out of. I used to see him at Paper Source.
Yeah. Well, that's for maybe there's a void in the Mobile Home King market that could be tapped. Maybe that could be your next career, Marty.
Don't think so. But I have a couple mobile home notes, and I'm not hesitant about buying them without land. No problem. I'm finding some great payers along the way, and but I'm not interested in the way Lonnie did it. But others are. I know they've done very well with it.
Oh, I would imagine. Yeah, everything I read.
Mm-hmm. But just continuing the thought here, I'm in the office every day. I'm not goofing off. I'm not running to the refrigerator. I'm very disciplined when it comes here to work. My wife, she forgets I'm in the house, and I forget she's in the house. And I find that very important. And concentrating on what I'm doing and getting it done, and diligence, and it works. That's my day, my typical day. Many evenings I work, and many weekends I work, but I don't think of it as work. It's fun. I love it.
Oh, it shows. And you and I have had, nighttime exchanges and weekends and all that. So I definitely know that that's the case. And none of it has ever come across as work to you. I mean, from what I've seen. But and so anything, Marty, you'd like to share? I know Joanne left your contact information, so you don't have to go on Facebook. So you'll be glad to know you do not have to go on Facebook.
Thank you, Joanne.
We don't wish that upon anybody, Marty, to go and spend hours on Facebook. So, but no, we were glad to have you on today, and I'm sure you'll be hearing from some folks, through this webinar, and I can say that you've been very, a great inspiration to me, and I'll tell you that the more I've gotten to know you, the more that I think that we have flowed in terms of our exchange and in getting through deals and whatnot. And so I feel like I've grown a great deal just having you, knowing you the way I know you.
I feel the same way about you, Mark.
Yeah.
Mutual admiration society here.
Well, thank you, Marty. And I look forward to seeing you again next time. And I have a whole portion of my next book devoted to you, Marty. I have a whole on our relationship. So I'm going to send you, I'll forward that to you.
Just cut me in on the royalties there, Marty.
Well, let's not get carried away, Marty. You don't know what it is I'm saying about you. So, but
thank you, Marty. A pleasure. It's been a pleasure. Indeed.
Absolutely. And so please reach out to Marty Granoff with anything, cash flow related. He does not want to see non-performing notes. He does not want to see, any seller financing on owner-occupied property originated after January 1st of 2014. But anything else that's paying on a regular basis, send it Marty's way, and earn a buck or two in the meantime.
Great.
Well, thank you, Marty, and
thanks, Mark. Okay.
Enjoy, everyone. God bless.
Thanks.